Welcome. How's everyone doing? It is Wednesday, May 14th. I had to double check that for a second. It's been that kind of a day. 2025. How's everyone doing? Carson, Austin, how are you two? And that's a great question. Does anyone else's YouTube app on mobile pause for a half second when reopening the stream from your lock screen? I never use it like that, but just this week, for reasons, I briefly did, and I don't think I saw that. But I also wasn't watching live. I was only watching stuff that was regular video streams, so I don't think it's the same thing. And to be fair, I watch very little on YouTube Live. I have a few times, or certainly several times. Just, it's very rare. There's not a lot that jumps out at me as, I'm usually busy when live things happen. That's more the issue. It's very much just circumstance more than anything. Though, to be fair, a lot of things I probably wouldn't watch live just because, or it wouldn't matter to me if they're live. Because a big part of live is usually like being there to chat with people. And larger events, it doesn't matter if it's Twitch or YouTube, the chat is usually impossible to keep up with. If it's a smaller thing, kind of like these streams, yeah, chat is a much more accessible feature. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Just making sure something's not broken here. Great. Let's see. So, yeah, and again, sorry for the incredibly late start. Just had a cat fixed. Everything went great. She's now back home, and oh boy, is she not loving her circumstances. Believe me, I'm not going to turn this into a topic. I'm just going to say she does not like the idea of being in a crate. She does not like the idea of being in any room other than the room that she kind of grew up in. She very obviously would like to be outside with her brothers. Poor girl, yeah, is just not loving the circumstances. But it is what it is. Yes, this is the pre-IO ramble. The thing is, I don't think there's really anything IO related to talk about today, so I'm not going to hit that subject too hard. But we are, of course, going to dive into the Android show. But that's going to come a little later. First, I figured I would break into the Android Live. Was it called Android Live? I thought it was called Android Show. Yeah, it was called the Android Show. But yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that. But first, quickly, these are some quick hit topics, and for what it's worth, just to say this, this is probably not going to be the longest show. For one, Corbin is unavailable. As I said, he's now had severe issues with CBP. And it just is what it is. We're hoping for the best. We're starting a GoFundMe for his legal defense. Hopefully he's not in El Salvador by the time any of that goes through. Expressa 3 coming next month. We'll get to that. Oh boy, are we going to get to that. But first, I figured I figured I'd just knock these out because they're quick, such quick topics. Due to popular demand, Warner Brothers has figured it out. They finally understand. Nobody wants Max to just be Max. It is going to be HBO Max again. The population has spoken. This is what we demanded, and according to the executives, it had nothing to do with popular demand, and this is just the right choice for their brand, which is a polite way of saying, yeah, no, you guys were all right. We're sorry. We'll put it back. Yes, they understand it now. It's laughable that they ever changed. Everyone mocked them for that back then. And let's be honest, they're not really ever going to live this down. But hey, we all make mistakes, and while they're not willing to admit to their mistake, they're at least correcting it. So I guess that's something. Well, maybe it's not something, but hey, it is what it is. At least we can stop doing the phony thing where we all say Max, but the HBO one or something like that. I don't know. This streaming service formerly known as HBO Max, or as I always wrote it, HBO in parentheses and then Max. Yeah, this finally gets to be a sane thing again. I'm happy about that. And I like the idea. Sorry, I forget if it was Austin or Carson, or maybe even Hoopy. But somebody suggested, or somebody asked the question, are they now going to make a new, oh yeah, it was Hoopy. Are they going to make a third app for HBO Max? And here's the thing. I hope so. I hope so. Now here's why. Their TV app is kind of not good. Their web app, it's passable at best. Bear in mind, we're talking about a service that does not have mark as unwatched as a feature. This is true for anyone who hasn't used it. This completely standard, widely accepted feature, mark as unwatched, does not exist. To this day, this is one of the most irritating and foolhardy decisions I've ever seen a streaming service make, but for some reason, it's one that they stand by. Actually, technically, they don't stand by it. Something like 2 or 3 years ago, I just looked this up this last week when I started my rewatch of The Last of Us. I looked this up. About 2.5, 3 years ago, they actually said, we're working on it. Somebody requested on Reddit a mark as unwatched feature. And in that thread, an HBO representative actually spoke up and said, or wait, I might be mixing this up with something else. Anyway, maybe that was on a Twitter thread. Doesn't matter. Anyway, somewhere an HBO representative actually said, quote, we're working on it. Now, I'm not here to... Look, I've worked in software development. I'm doing software development right now. Unpaid, as it were, and at least until it releases. But setting due dates for things, always a bad idea. You never know when things are going to slip. Just remember, the Android team took, I believe it was also 2.5 years just to do scrolling screenshots. Because apparently that is a very, very difficult feature. In truth, it actually might be. I don't know. That being said, it is not here yet, which is a hard pill to swallow. but a pill nonetheless, I suppose. Carson, I see you asked how far through the rewatch am I. I'm nowhere near as far as I'd like to be. I am about halfway through episode 5 of season 1. So I was hoping to be like roughly on the last episode or 2 by now. So I'm falling behind, but I do intend to be through this much faster. So I'm in the episode where they are escaping Kansas City. Yeah, I'm halfway through an episode. I got hung up on some stuff. This has happened now twice. I hate being in the middle of episodes, but sometimes it happens. But yeah, this is the one where they're in the tunnels leaving Kansas City, and Kathleen is hunting after I am blanking on his name. It doesn't matter. Anyway, you know. Let's see. But hey, I will be through this within the next few days. Let's see. Okay, let me skim back really quick and make sure I'm not forgetting something. Okay, I see the DDR Max comment. Carson, you said you think there's an option to clear your watch history. That could be useful. It's not how I would want to do it. Let's see, settings, playback. And I wonder if this is even something available from the web. I don't actually see an option for this. At least not under settings. Account. I'm pretty sure not going to be under managed devices, but why is there so... Oh, those are all browser. Okay, whatever. Let's see. So not under settings, not under account, and that's managed profiles. I don't see a way to do it. Under profile, there's profile name, content preferences, which is just what ratings are allowed. Lock profile, which puts a pin on it. Display language, birth year, gender, which for some reason they have decided to now make it mandatory that you enter your gender and birth year if you go into your profile settings. So they really want to know when you were born and what your gender is, which, what? Why? Why? Why is this a thing? Why do I have to put that in there? I don't get it. That's so dumb. Anyway, especially because I then had to enter it for somebody else. Not happy about that. So, because nobody cares. Literally no one should care. It's under the My Stuff tab and continue watching. My Stuff. Is that under the home? My Stuff. Is this on the web interface, or are you looking... Okay, on the mobile app. I think it's not on the web interface at all. Because there's no My Stuff tab anywhere here. There's a My List, but that's stuff you're watching. Yeah, no, I don't see anything like that. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you just can't do it from the web, which further emphasizes the need for them to fix things. So desperately they need to fix things. Okay, anyway. So, yeah, all that being said, I'd love to see them actually try to make a better app. for the TV, for the web, for mobile. Guys, go for it. Try again. Let's see what you can do. You've learned maybe a few lessons. You certainly learned about proper branding. So give it another shot on the apps. Why not? You've got time. You've got existing source code. I'm sure it's possible. A software engineer spoke about how crappy their code was. It's funny how often we're actually hearing that be a thing lately. Because obviously, look at all the software engineers who left Twitter and promptly basically said, yeah, my work sucked, but hey, everyone else's did too. At least that was kind of my takeaway from what some of them had said. But yeah, every major company, it's funny how much their code is bad. Like, they don't seem to hire good developers. Honestly, this could probably turn into a show all of its own, but I mean, we've heard this time and time again about Spotify. Spotify, the app, is bad. And we've obviously, there have been countless complaints about Google's apps. And we've got some insight on why those are problematic. But obviously, you know, here's HBO probably having some app quality issues. I'm just saying, like, at some point, when are companies going to hire the good developers? Or are there no good developers? Is that maybe the problem? I don't know. Or is the problem that they're hiring? You know what? Generally speaking, I've heard good things about the Netflix app. You know what Netflix is sort of famous for? Paying their developers well. That was one of the things Netflix was really, really famous for. They paid their developers a lot of money. Is that the problem? Or is that the solution? I bet it is. Just gonna go out on a limb. HBO, Warner Brothers Discovery. If you'd like to have a good app, try throwing another couple 100,000, maybe throw, you know, even a couple million at a good dev team. Bet you won't have troubles with getting those apps working real nice. That tea is still way too hot. It was nuked like 3 separate times before I even got to throw a tea bag in there. All right. Anyway. Moving on. Okay, so next up, the other big media topic, really quick, and there is so little to say on this, but for Letterboxd fans, you may have remembered Letterboxd was acquired, what was it, about a year ago? Something like that, by a company I believe called Tiny. It's not important. But they have now today announced they're going to do a video store. So they're going to do basically video on demand. This is going to be a situation where, in theory, you can rent something, watch it. It's basically just like any of the other video on demand services. The way that they're framing it, it sounds like the focus is going to be, and Blockbuster's back a little bit, yeah. It sounds like the focus is going to be on lesser known movies. So things that show up in film festivals, things that are, I assume, to some extent, international films, things that I guess you wouldn't be able to find on most of the other services. And that sort of makes sense in a way, because anyone who's used Letterboxd, you surely have noticed. Wait, why am I not signed in again? I just signed into this like a day ago. Come on. And I hate my password manager now. It's so freaking slow. But if you've looked at any of the, just gonna use this as an example. If you've looked at any Letterboxd page, you can usually click through this section right here to watch any of the movies at whatever particular service they list. And I don't know about all of these, but some of them they do get affiliate revenue from. How else do they make money? So Letterboxd actually does have a subscription service. I've never used it. It's not in any way, honestly, it is in no way, shape, or form of interest to me. But it's called Letterboxd Pro. This, and of course, by the way, they did also accept Patreon subscriptions. This is how Letterboxd was making money for some period of time. And I have very little to say about this. I don't know. It's cool that it was there. I know at least a couple of people that subscribe to it. Honestly, the features that they offer, I just don't get it. Like, they don't interest me at all. So, you know, it is what it is. Cheers to the people who subscribe. That's awesome. Anyway, since they were acquired, and again, they have this section right here where you could click through and watch stuff on Amazon, on Apple TV, Google Play, Microsoft Store. I believe this list changes, and it's always just like their top 4 or 5 recommendations. I might have that wrong, but it's something like that. Let's see. This probably has watch it on Spectrum. Okay. Anyway, yeah, so if they make some amount of affiliate revenue off of those, I believe. I'm not technically sure on that, but I know at least some of these services do offer to do affiliate revenue with certain partners. They won't do it with everybody. Like, you can't just sign up. As far as I'm aware, none of them have sign up options, so you can just like be some random website. I think it's more of a partner thing. However, you know, the mere fact that they make any money that way is probably good, because otherwise Letterboxd is basically just a free service, almost in the way IMDb is, but less obnoxious about it. Anyway, so, and does Letterboxd run ads? I don't believe they do. Or if they do, I haven't seen them. And I will not be elaborating. So, yeah. Otherwise, now they're basically going to add a new rental service where they will actually be the service to rent. For whatever reason... Oh, by the way, I should point out, so they have this section of streaming services. If it's a new movie that has actual in-theater showings going on, you can also click through for showtimes and tickets, and all of the major ticketing services definitely pay affiliate revenue. So you can, trust me, I know for a fact you can make pretty good money off of like Fandango and a couple of those others. I was looking into this a while ago for other reasons. So yes, they also made money that way for new movies. So yeah, anyway, with this new service, they're going to basically be offering stuff that presumably you're not as likely to ever find on, say, Apple TV streaming or any of the other services. So I like the idea, and it doesn't sound offensive. Like, I think a lot of people were really worried that this was going to become one of those situations, like when the company was acquired, or when the site was acquired. I think everyone who was a fan of Letterboxd, kind of assumed the worst. Like this was definitely going to become the ruination of a service that a lot of people really like. And so far, there's no sign of that happening. And this particular new way of making some money, I don't find it in any way offensive. At least not yet. We'll see how it's implemented. Maybe they'll do something really horrendous. Maybe they'll start putting in pop-ups every time you load a page saying, hey, by the way, did you know you can rent some random movie that you don't want to see? They could do those things. I'm hoping they don't. If they do, we'll see. I will judge them as they deserve when that time comes. In the meantime, this seems like a good idea. And it seems like, again, that they're going to go for things that other services don't offer, which I think is actually kind of a commendable thing. That being said, I'm just going to say this. Letterboxd, even though this would technically be a little bit of a sellout move, I'm just going to say it. Try going after the big stuff too. You know what? Just do it. It's okay. If I find Venom: The Last Dance viewable directly from Letterboxd, I will not see anything wrong with this. Except the fact it's Venom: The Last Dance. Honestly, it wasn't that good. It was mediocre. Not terrible, just very, very, very mediocre. But hey, is what it is. And yes, these are the latest movies I've watched. They were fine. Well, actually, Sahara's great. I know I didn't rate it super highly. It's not like one of those phenomenal movies, but it's really enjoyable. It is a fun movie. If anyone's never seen it, give it a shot. I dare say it is Matthew McConaughey possibly at his best. Short of course, thumping his chest on Wolf of Wall Street. Nothing beats this, right? All right. Anyway, so yeah, nothing else to say on Letterboxd. Cheers to them, I guess. This is a thing. Okay, and before we get to the meatiness of the episode, I'm also going to bring this up just because it happened to be a topic yesterday, and it happened to we were basically talking about this in Discord without talking about this, but Valve is introducing a new Steam Deck verified program. So this is basically just highlighting, or rather certifying, that games, not apps, that games are fully compatible with SteamOS. So apparently this is a first step towards rolling out future SteamOS hardware, or at least hardware that can run SteamOS. I don't know that we really have any specific clarification on what that plan is. But this will basically be an indicator that a game is fully compatible and will be, I'm assuming, easily installable and fully operational on whatever hardware is certified as, or whatever hardware is running SteamOS correctly. I'm trying to qualify that because who knows what the circumstances might end up being, or if anybody ever installs SteamOS on hardware that's not supposed to be installed on, who knows. But whatever the case may be, presumably this is all about making sure games are fully playable on SteamOS hardware, which, great. That's a good thing. In theory, it will push forward, at least to some extent, games on Linux. I kind of like seeing that just because, frankly, along the lines of whatever said earlier, I think Microsoft really keeps Windows in line to some extent for PC gaming, just because they actually know they have to compete or they will lose that market. because Valve has put in serious effort into making it as easily making it as possible as can be to approach developing games for Linux. They're trying, not necessarily succeeding in the fullest way, but they're trying. And being that they have been, it's, I think, put a little bit of the fear of God into Microsoft, because they recognize their footing in the operating system space is rockier than it has ever been. So yeah, I think they recognize they have to start caring about things like that. So they are. And competition breeds better things for the consumer. So this, I think this is a positive direction. We'll see how it turns out. Because supposedly future Steam Decks or Steam OS hardware, rumor has it, or maybe this isn't rumor, I'm not really sure, but supposedly new hardware is coming in the next few weeks, or at least announcements are coming in the next few weeks. So I have a feeling we'll be talking about this very, very soon. Let's see. Oh, and before I forget, I was going to add this as a just making sure I have that in the show notes. Not that I ever use them or publish them anywhere, but just making sure it's linked. All right. Anyway, so those were the quick hits. Now let's go to the meat. So, show of hands, who suffered through the 20 minutes of the Android show? The special edition, the I/O edition of the Android show. It was, man, I wanted to like it. I went in wanting to like it. I figured they're not going to spend a lot of time on AI. And to their credit, they didn't. So I'm not mad at them over this. I'm mad at them for other things. But I'm not mad about excessive AI. I will give them credit. They kept that pretty limited, pretty reasonable. Cheers. Carson, you watched the replay so you could fast forward. You know, in retrospect, I can't say that I wish I would have done that, because I don't think it would have mattered. First of all, being that it was only 20 minutes, there wasn't much fast forwarding to do. But yeah, there wasn't much said. Really, they only kind of had 4 sections, and they weren't that much. So anyway, the thing is, at least it was all about Android. That, cheers to them for that. At least they made something that was all about Android. And I agree with, I believe it was Austin. Again, I apologize if I got this wrong, but I like the idea of them separating this into like the consumer side of Android, which is what this whole thing was, and the developer side of Android, which presumably we're going to get at I/O. If nothing else, I'm assuming there will probably be a What's New in Android session or video that will go over what the developer side cares about. And doing this as the consumer facing portion of it, that's fine. That's good. Or the concept is good. I think the execution leaves something to be desired, but that's maybe because I think that they have misunderstood their audience. Sip of tea. Carson saying they should have announced this at the keynote next week. but in reality, they only want to talk about AI next week. Yes. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole point. I don't even question this for a moment. Uh, and I think I'm pretty sure I said this during the ramble last week, but Google has always treated I/O as sort of a here's what we care about right now conference. At one point in history, all of their announcements were focused on web-based technology. And all their sessions were based on web-based technology. At a certain point, the web-based technology disappeared from I/O. Or, well, maybe not disappeared, but it certainly took a downward turn. Now, the Android side is kind of vanishing from I/O. And I'm not surprised by this. And honestly, I think I hate saying that it's the right choice, but I'm actually going to say it's the right choice. It sucks to say that because I/O, we know that Android is still a very crucial part of the business. Android app development is still critical, and judging by the Spotify app, HBO Max streaming apps, and many others, there's still a lot that developers need to learn about Android. Yes, we're just going to throw the clap back right at them just because. But no, there's still a lot of value to having Android development discussed at I/O, but in reality, I think at this stage, the company recognizes I/O is, or that AI is their money-making topic right now. So that's what I/O is going to be dominated by. Truthfully, I'm very curious what the rest of I/O is going to look like. They are obviously going to, like in the sessions, they're still going to be talking about Android. They'll also be talking about AI. They're going to be talking about a lot of things. But it's pretty clear they're going to be focusing the keynote on AI. And as much as I hate to say it, I think that's probably the right choice. It sucks to say that. Believe me, it sucks to say that because I'm going to watch that keynote and I'm going to regret every minute of watching that keynote. I'm going to hate watching it because I don't care about 99% of what they're going to, 98, maybe 97% of what they're going to say. I'm giving about a 3% gap for the possibility they're going to talk about some really interesting video stuff, because we know their video AI thing is a thing. Like, I'm interested. I'm curious in that. Not that I intend to use it, but more because I kind of just want to see what they're doing. I genuinely think it's interesting. And I want to see how far along it is. Beyond that, do not care. Like, none of what they're going to talk about is in my wheelhouse. It's not in my interest space. But I at least want to see it. So let's see. But yeah, so I do like the idea of them having a video that is sort of a quick hit bit that, like, iOS user, or sorry, that Android enthusiasts could show to their friends who are iPhone users and say, hey, remember when you said that Android wasn't as pretty? Well, look at this. We think it's as pretty now. You were worried about security, or maybe you have a concern about iPhone security in some way because, hey, shocker, it doesn't like prevent you from experiencing fraud or whatever. Pick whatever topic or topical thing there is. And yeah, these are things that you could show to your iOS using friends in a 20-minute video that might convince them to think, oh, hey, Android is improving, or it's solved some of the things that I didn't like in the past. That I think was the purpose of that video. I don't know that that's the case, but that's the function that I could see it serving. So I'm not against it. I just think it was missing one particular aspect, which is, in reality, nobody's showing those videos to anybody. The people watching that video are enthusiasts. Not necessarily developers, though developers are too, but enthusiasts are watching that video. And enthusiasts already knew most of the stuff that was announced. They don't care. They've seen it. They already heard those announcements when they happened the first several times, like the fraud detection in messaging and phone calls and stuff like that. Enthusiasts already knew about this, so it's not interesting to them. And realistically, I believe it's enthusiasts that watch that video. But whatever, you know, I'm not sure there's much point in judging that. But anyway, what was in the video? So, of course, they discussed Material 3 Expressive. This was basically what we saw already. There's not that much different. It's basically bringing more color, or more spaces for that color for the colors to kind of emerge. Honestly, the bigger thing I think was animation. I didn't get the impression that there was this significant new design language. It didn't feel like a new design language to me. It just felt like, oh, here's the existing design language, but you changed like a few controls a little bit and you ramped up the animations. That's what I got from this. Is it's a lot more animated. But I don't the practical honest reality of it is they're not changing anything about the existing controls that's going to add animation. That's a thing developers have to do. So I'm getting the indication that there will be more animation built into the OS, and I assume Google's own apps will be getting more animation. And perhaps, I suppose, there could be animations appearing in other parts of the OS or interface, but I don't know. And maybe there are new animation features coming in the SDKs, or well, the material library. But beyond that, they didn't give me any indication of how any of this will happen if app developers are not just jumping on board with making animations. And truth be told, while some developers are very focused on putting animations into their apps, it seems like the majority are not. I don't blame them. I very much understand that, because animations are not the easiest thing to do, especially when you're focused on building function. But we shall see. But outside of that, Material 3 Expressive does not speak to me as really being that big of a change from Material 2, aka Material U. It just seems like a partial refresh of existing controls. So I'm not really sure what to make of this. It feels like they're kind of overhyping what this is, while at the same time, I think that's also a good thing, because we don't need a new design language yet. Don't get me wrong. I've been vocal about the fact I'm not the biggest fan of Material. Post original Material. Original Material I thought was good. When it hit Material U, I became less impressed by it. Carson, I will answer that in a second. But I don't think there would be any reason right now to make a big change to the design language. I'm perfectly happy with them saying, you know what, it was good where it was at. Well, okay, Again, I don't agree with that, but I'm perfectly happy with them saying we don't want to change anything big right now. We want to introduce a few new things and maybe again encourage everyone to do animations and leave it at that. If that's what they're doing, cheers. Because developers don't need to spend weeks or months rejiggering their apps so that they can look like the latest and greatest thing every couple of releases. Like, that's not healthy for anybody. So cheers. Please keep things the way they are for longer periods of time. Much like we don't need to throw our phones away every year to get the latest and greatest model, we also don't need to be throwing away development work every couple of years just to have the latest and greatest design language. So yeah, I'm good with this. Again, I kind of wish they'd be steering people back to original material, not the Material U design style, but it is what it is. Carson asking, should they have lined it up with the A16 release? Like I said, I would answer that in a second, and I'm going to. Yes. See? A second. But also no. Now, here's where it has to go longer than a second. The truth of the matter is, it needs to be separate from the OS release. Because developers are going to be making their apps, and just because you make an app that comes out, or just because an OS release is going to come with the new design language, in so much as it is newish, if they're going to come with a new design language, they also need to sort of acknowledge the fact that a lot of apps, or basically all app developers, are going to be releasing their apps. If they do switch to the new design language, they're going to be building these apps to run on older devices that are not going to have Android 16, or at least not have it right away. So the design language itself, sort of by necessity, is going to be a separate release. Developers are going to have to support it if they choose to support it right away. Developers are going to be supporting it where the majority of users are not going to have the operating system that matches it. But they're not going to make two different versions of their app just to support different design languages. I mean, in theory, a couple of developers might, but the majority of them aren't. They're going to make apps, and I think the reality is most app developers are not going to be adopting this right away anyway. But among those that do, those apps are going to be running on older versions of the OS anyway. So while I do agree that for Android 16, I think Google should have released, or should be releasing Material 3 Expressive on Android 16, like alongside it, on the same day. They absolutely should be releasing it. Not because I don't think they should be doing it because it's part of any sort of marketing push or concept. I think they should be doing it because developers should have the reference point coming earlier, not later. I don't think developers need to make their apps look correct on Android 16, or air quote correct. I think they just need to be able to see, oh, here's what Google meant by this. Here's what they meant by that. Here's their implementation in Gmail of doing this thing. Here's their implementation in the quick settings of how this other thing should work. Or at least what they mean by it. if that's how it's going to be, they should be communicating that earlier so that developers can just start working on it. There is an angle to this where maybe the logic is release Material 3 later down the line, so that developers can focus on compatibility and functionality and all the stuff that's relevant to Android 16. If you looked at the breaking changes, there are definitely some, but they're not particularly significant in my opinion. Well, they are significant, but they're not going to affect most apps in a very significant way. Most apps, the breaking changes are going to affect in relatively easy to fix, trivial ways. And so for that, I think it's fine. However, if down the road they release Material 3 and it's a relatively short uptake, then that just gives developers less time to focus on that. So I would kind of like to see Material 3 just be available and let developers choose what things are going to focus on. Let's see. So I think that answers, or at least that's my opinion on it. But I think that answers the question. So let's see. They also discussed Gemini is coming to even more places. I have so little to say about this. Let's see. Oh, there were two things that were discussed. One of them, oh man, okay. Engadget doesn't really show enough here. Maybe it's under, maybe they got it here. There were two notes that I took. I took a few other notes, but there were two that are at least sort of worth mentioning. Yeah, they don't show it here either. Okay. Well, we're just going to do this without visual representation. So, one thing that they mentioned is the notification shade. It's mostly the same, but and I don't think much about Material 3 Expressive really comes through. But I noticed that they decided to allow for quick settings tiles to be more dense. They're literally just making them half width, or at least optionally half width. I'm not quite clear on that. And to that I say, hooray! Because I'll tell you, my quick settings, when I just pull down the notification shade, there are I can see reasons for having the I'm going to call them half width, not as opposed to full width. Full width would go from one end of the screen to the other. The half width notification or quick settings tiles, I want half width for internet and Bluetooth. I do not at all care about having half width buttons for the other two things that I always have up here, which is TV remote and flashlight. These can just be icons. It's okay. But what I would love to have right next to them is an icon for the hotspot and the icon for auto rotate, because those are the next two things that I have, and I always have to do an extra pull to be able to get to them, and I don't want that. I want direct access to all four of these things on my first pull of the notification screen. So yes, I'm it's a small thing, but I'm really happy about that. I want I want the ability to make these things quarter width with basically just the icons. That will make me a happy boy. Now, how creepy was it that I just said it in that voice? Okay, so the other thing I noticed was this. I don't know if anyone else saw this in the video, and I don't know if maybe people already discussed this, because I don't know how long these pages have been up, and I was kind of lazy about checking. But in their promotional video, I noticed that they had on the delivery driver notification, they showed a car traveling. I think it was like, was it Uber Eats, or maybe it was something else? It doesn't matter. But on the notification, they actually had segmented display. So in theory, it shows something making progress, but it's not just a progress bar. It's actually segments showing, like, you know, in theory, one segment would be for something was picked up. The second segment might be they're driving. The third segment might be they're almost to your place. Something like that. I'm just making up examples. But the fact that they're introducing segmented progress bars, I think, is a really cool feature. I dig that. That's awesome. So did they get licensed? Did they license the Domino's Pizza Tracker? That would be funny. But this is something, I mean, it's something developers could already do in notifications if they wanted to go to a lot of trouble to do it. But it would have been a very manual process. Here, they're actually just adding it as a feature of notifications, and I dig that. I approve of that being an effort. So I think that's cool. But with that came something that jumped out at me. A feature that they're calling live updates, which the best way to describe live updates is basically that this is a thing where you can get more notifications that are basically like the notifications you already had, but constantly showing new changes. And they didn't say this specifically, and they didn't exactly clarify how this is implemented. But one of the things I noticed is that these live updates basically appear on your lock screen more readily and more consistently. They're going to take more space on your lock screen, or rather more prominence, more priority. So as I'm looking at that, and as I'm realizing, hey, this basically just means that they gave certain apps even more access to your notifications, basically. And it's something that imagine you can only turn off by turning off the notifications entirely, or at least blocking notification channels, which means that you don't get the notification you want. Like, in the process of getting rid of the live updates, I bet you're also getting rid of the actual notification that mattered to you in the first place. Now, think about this in reverse and tell me that there aren't going to be companies saying, oh, hey, we can have higher priority notifications that show up all the time, when we want them to, at least. And they basically will take precedence over every other notification. Tell me that developers are not going to be taking advantage of this, both to be very spammy. And when I say spammy, I'm immediately thinking of stuff like Google's own news alerts, because that's the thing. Like, those are pretty spammy. And just imagine if a company decides they really want to dominate your notifications, this is now the way to do it. So we don't know a lot about live updates yet. I don't think that that's something they I don't believe that's something that they have documentation up for quite yet. Or if they do, I didn't see it. But yeah, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say this could become problematic. So I would not bet on this becoming a long-term future, or long-term feature without some limits showing up. That's interesting too. Searching for live updates. Yeah, so they haven't even released the they haven't released documentation on how that works yet, which is kind of weird because they've got documentation out about almost everything else. But anyway, so going back to wait, where is it? Oh, not this one. We wanted to go back to this one. All right. So yeah, Gemini coming to even more places. Carson making fun of the Chromecast with Google TV remote with the assistant icon. Yep. All the old icons are going to look outdated very, very soon. But anyway, yeah, so they brought up Gemini is coming to more screens, basically Wear OS, the TV, auto platforms, basically everywhere that Assistant is currently at, except possibly and probably stuff like the Google Home. So to this end, I must say, oh boy, I'm not sure that I dig this for numerous reasons, but at the same time, we knew it was coming, so it is what it is. We'll see. My phone's obviously, like some of my phones, I still haven't tapped through the button to tell them, yes, it's okay, go ahead and use Gemini here. And I'm not sure, but I think they're still doing it automatically anyway. But it is what it is. Like they're gonna move everything to Gemini as quickly as they can, because that's the talking point. And it is the differentiator they have right now against iOS. So I get it. It is their focal point. So they're going to do it. Other than that, who cares? And I say that not combatively. It's just more of a, like, honestly, who really cares about this? It's going to be Assistant, just a little bit different than Assistant was. And at times it might tell you to eat glue. Most of the time it'll be fine. That's kind of just where it's at. And I don't think there's a lot else to expect from it, because I also don't think it's going to be that rich of an AI. Or at least at first it probably won't be, but maybe it will be eventually. So I don't know. We'll see. One thing that I am a little more skeptical of is things like this. Google TV will leverage Gemini for TV and movie recommendations. All right. There were already really good algorithms for doing this. I don't think Gemini is a necessity for this feature. As a matter of fact, if anything, I would argue it's probably going to be terrible at this if they're using any existing models, because existing models might have a basic concept of, oh, if you liked Alien, you're probably going to like Aliens, and then Alien 3. They're probably not really going to understand the other much broader comparison points of, oh, you liked Alien. By the way, have you heard of the Predator movies? That's a thing Gemini might not be able to tell you, or, you know, probably because those are so indelibly tied together now. Gemini might know that one, but will it necessarily be able to say, oh, hey, did you like Tucker and Dale versus Evil? By the way, we're going to tell you about The Cabin in the Woods. Wait, is that the right... Do I have the right movie name? Double checking this one. Yeah, Cabin in the Woods. Are these two the same movie? No. But they definitely have some relative inspiration, or shared inspirations. Are they even technically the same genre? Kind of, but not. But that's the thing. I don't think Gemini will be able to make those types of recognizable comparisons, whereas other good algorithms that make TV and movie recommendations absolutely can. So this isn't the sort of thing that I would want an LLM to figure out. It's the sort of thing that I want a dedicated AI to figure out instead. And a Gemini right now seems to still be more the LLM rather than the specialized field expert. Carson, conversation with Gemini live when you're bored and driving alone. Okay, so this is actually a thing. I've joked about this in the past. I don't think I ever joked about it on stream, but I did joke about this in the past of, and I think I even made jokes about this back when Siri was a thing. Like, they made Siri conversational. And I remember joking that if you're really tired, a conversational Siri in the car actually, like, that's one of the few times when a conversational Siri actually made sense. And so Gemini Live being conversational kind of does actually make sense to me. So I'm not against this. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's just also, I guess, a little depressing. And also, I'm just going to say this. I know it wouldn't necessarily work for everyone, especially for possible assorted reasons, but seriously, turn on upbeat, or not upbeat necessarily, but turn on some high tempo music, especially something you can sing to. Honestly, it'll keep you awake way better than any conversation with an AI. I suppose that doesn't work if you have like a sore throat or something, but other than that, yeah, turn on music, sing along. It will absolutely keep you awake better. Yeah, let's see. So, oh, and they also brought up Gemini will be appearing on Android XR. I'm just going to be a jerk about this and say, did anyone think it wasn't going to be? Like, it's on everything else. Look, the only reason they're bringing up Android XR is because they need to, they're teasing it. They want to make sure people remember that Android XR is also going to be a thing at I/O. So, yeah, keep your eyes watching for Android XR. That's what they were really trying to say. Let's see. So, yeah, there was that. They brought up the Android security features and Find Hub. I'm just going to say it. The Android security features, this was literally 100% all things that they previously announced. They kind of brought up a few things that didn't really get any airtime before, like road toll scams. But outside of a few things that honestly just some people probably never heard about before, none of that stuff is new. And it was all, like, it's all good things. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. It's just, you know, this was re-announcing stuff that enthusiasts either already knew or didn't care about. Now, Find Hub. So, as we discussed in Discord, I'm pretty sure that this was for legal reasons. They had to change the name from Find My or Find My Devices to Find Hub. I'm okay with the name change happening. I think Find Hub, it rolls off the tongue about as well as, you know, I don't even have a, it rolls off the tongue about as well as a snowplow. Like, it's an awkward name. It doesn't feel good to say it, but also, who cares? Like, and it sounds less, honestly, I never liked the Find My name either. By the way, to Apple, Find My is also a terrible name. I'm just gonna say it. It sounds weird to say in a sentence unless it's that perfectly crafted sentence where you get to say, you know, if find my laptop, or find my this, find my that. Like, it's, you can use it in a sentence where it doesn't sound awkward, but you have to force it. Find hub at least sounds like a thing. It's a noun. So I'm okay with this. Find my Cody. Huh. Odd how there are jokes coming to mind that I'm not going to make, but all right. Not jokes at anyone's expense here. At someone else's expense. Anyway, so let's see. The Find Hub name. I'm kind of happy about this just for the sake of it being a distinct name from Apple's thing, because having the same name does just seem kind of weird. But yeah, that's about it. I don't think there's not a lot to say about it. It's a clumsy name, but it's fine. In a year, no one's gonna look back on this and say, oh my god, I hate that I've been calling it Find Hub for a year. And I don't think there's anyone out there who's gonna be yelling and screaming about, hey, I refuse to call it Find Hub. It's always gonna be Find My. No, it's not. Anyone who's used to it is just gonna adapt to this name pretty quick. With the notable exception, there's going to be so many articles that were written where people say, use Find My or Find My Devices, whatever. And yeah, now all of those are going to be naming off a old feature, or a feature that has gone through a name change. Outside of that, meh, I don't care. And even with that, I kind of don't care, because if someone's going to look for Find My, then like they'll go scrolling through they're gonna go scrolling through their apps and see, oh, Find Hub? That's not what it was called before, but this looks right. I'll use that. That's it. Easy. No difficulty here. So yeah, I think we're good. I think the world will be very okay with the Find Hub name. So yeah, I'm pretty okay with this. I don't think it's a problem. Let's see. So Carson saying, not to mention the boxes for all the trackers with the Find My Device badge. Yeah, though, strictly speaking, Find Hub is now the name of the app and I believe the service. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Find My Device badging would change. It probably will. It probably will eventually become Find Hub badging, but they don't have to. Like, you can have separate badging from the name of the app or service. They did it with Chromecast for years, especially as they changed it to Cast, just blind Cast. So there's nothing strictly wrong with them continuing to use Find My Device badging. So yeah, I'm seeing this as still an okay thing, or mostly okay thing. And Alyssa, pixel tags win, or nest tags instead. Honestly, I can't tell what they're gonna do with that. I kind of think if they're gonna choose either brand, I sort of feel like they're gonna go with Pixel, just because Nest stuff seems to be for in the home, and I think Pixel stuff is stuff you carry on you, or it travels with you. I feel like that's the separation, but at the same time, Nest is kind of Nest has kind of a conceptual brand or a use, an experiential quality to it that I think might fit the tags better. So I don't know. G tags. No. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, and I say this having worked for a company that actually used this branding. I'm not kidding. G tags is, you're starting to get into a territory where you could have people either accidentally or clumsily referring to G spot, or the G tag is in its spot, which then becomes G spot, stuff like that. I used to work for, dead serious, a winery that liked to use G spot in part of their branding, or well, their t-shirts. Absolutely a thing. So, yep. And people thought it was funny, but there was also a lot, you could tell there were people who, when they saw the t-shirts or anything like that, would get kind of weird about it, a little uncomfortable. Then there were also the ones who were too comfortable with it and also got weird about it, but you get the idea. And yes, by the way, at wine festivals, we absolutely oversold the find the G spot jokes, as in find our booth. Weird place, but it was what it was. Let's see. So, all right. So, let's see. Oh, okay. Was that the last thing that I had to bring up there? Okay, there was that. All right. So, now, while I was looking, again, I don't know how long this has been up, so I might be hitting this topic very late. But for anyone who actually poked around on the page for the new features and APIs, any of the things that they're adding to Android in 2025 or Android 16, however you want to focus that, I skimmed through the entire page, read all the stuff, or at least most of it. I skipped over a few things that were obviously not super interesting, especially, you know, let's be honest, there's some accessibility stuff that's just not really for most of us. But I did get to the camera section, and they're adding a hybrid auto exposure, which good, or that's now part of the Camera 2 API, which good, that makes sense. Precise color temperature and tint adjustments, neat, but you know, not overly exciting. Camera night mode, scene detection, an intent to start a motion photo capture, which yeah, okay, fine. Ultra HDR image enhancements, fine. These are all things. And weirdly, wait, actually, where was, oh, okay, it was there. Those are all neat, I guess. You know, we'll use some of these maybe at times, but most of this stuff is for like very specialized cameras, and when it's done right, they're not actually that useful. But if you're gonna build a camera app and not really aim that high, then yeah, these features, most of these features are actually going to be, you know, nice conveniences for the developers that don't want to do more. And the motion photo capture intent, yay, I guess. Is it bothering you, Carson? Anyway, yeah, so and I got down to a few other things. I'm not going to list over all this stuff, but there was one that when I saw it, it struck me as a, wait a second, what? Advanced Professional Video. Interesting. So APV, apparently this is a codec that was designed for professional level, high quality video recording and post-production. What? You got my attention now. I'm interested. What is this? So I read through it, and it's perceptually lossless video quality. They say close to raw, which, okay, knowing what that means, that's a pretty vague, broad term, but I'm not gonna nitpick it too much. Low complexity and high throughput intra-frame only coding. So this part, that's a lot of words to basically say that when you load this video up, unlike stuff like H.265, de-encoding this is a thing that, like, you want to do it in hardware if you can. It stresses hardware. And it's not something you really want to do on like a CPU. You want like a dedicated decoder for this. So the fact that this is a low complexity format with basically single frame coding. So one of the other things about a lot of H.265 encoding is it can encode something that is covering just the differences several frames later. This is how a lot of video encoding is done, so that basically so it can save space. In other words, let's say you have a single frame of video and hardly anything changes from this frame to like 60 frames down. The idea is that you can, in subsequent frames, you can just encode the stuff that was new or that changed, and that allows you to save space. That's great for saving space, but it adds a lot of decoding weight. The reason this is, now obviously that's good in a lot of ways, but it's bad if you're using it in an editor. Basically edit like stuff like Premiere Pro or Vegas or DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut. The thing is, if you have lots of video all in a clip or all in a scene, if it has to decode not just the current frame but several frames back and through several frames, that's a lot of work in order to show you just a single frame. And that's what this prevents, is it just has like a single frame to decode at any given time, which means that it's doing less work. The file sizes are bigger, but it's still less work. So let's see, support for high bit rate range up to a few gigabits per second, which yeah, that's a good thing. It's a scary thing because it also means that you can absolutely fill flash storage in a few minutes of video. But it's a good thing for anyone who cares about like super high quality video. Frame tiling for immersive content. Let's not get into that. Support for various chroma sampling formats and bit depths. This is really important, but it's mostly a hardware issue. I'm not going to discuss it. Support for multiple decoding and re-encoding without severe visual quality degradation. Basically, that just means that you can convert it a few times, or like you could edit it, cut some of the video, re-encode it as a shorter clip or with some changes, and it should basically look the same at the end. Support for multi-view video and auxiliary video with depth, alpha, and preview. That again gets complicated. And support for HDR10 and 10 plus and user-defined metadata. Again, not going to get super deep into this. Okay, all this, if you're not a video nerd, your eyes probably glazed over, and I probably should have started by saying sorry. For the next minute I'm going to glaze your eyes. But for those who are video nerds, I started looking deeper into this. Let's see. That's the same page. Okay. I was immediately curious. Can I edit APV in DaVinci Resolve? Which led to the fastest sigh of almost comic relief I've ever had in my life. I searched, can you edit APV in DaVinci Resolve? And the first thing that comes up is an article from CineD that is about the Blackmagic camera app for Android that has this bullet point here saying support for APV codec on Android 16. Devices running Android 16 and equipped with supported hardware can now record using the APV codec. This format, introduced by Blackmagic for high efficiency, high quality video capture, is optimized for post-production in DaVinci Resolve. I'm a happy boy. I love seeing this. This is exciting to me. Now, what does this actually mean? Anyone here remember the Apple keynotes where they kept talking about, hey, you can now do ProRes in the iPhone. Like, you can just use an iPhone to do ProRes. This is it. This is literally ProRes, except not. Why is it not? Because of this. This is the Open APV project right there. This is let's see. Provided by license. Is this open source? Actually, that's the one thing I didn't check, but I believe it is, or at least close enough. I mean, so the parser is open source. I don't know if the licensing is. Even have the logos out there. BSD3. Hot damn. Okay. Man, I love when it's a short license. That's it. This is the whole license for their code. Wait, and it's got Samsung Electronics? That's weird. By the way, Alyssa, I've been telling you this. You do need to learn DaVinci Resolve. And there's not that much learning. It's really not that hard. If you have any questions, first off, I can point you to a couple of YouTube channels. But not only that, I can answer almost anything you're going to want to ask. Because it works like almost any other NLE, that's non-linear editor, which is, so basically it works just like Final Cut or Premiere Pro or Vegas. But I think, in my personal opinion, it is way easier to conceptualize the parts that you need, and the stuff that you don't need kind of really stays out of your way. So yes, I know you use Clipchamp, but yeah, Resolve is so much better. Especially like, as soon as you ever come across something that you're like, oh, I want to be able to do something more advanced, Clipchamp, you literally just hit a wall. You cannot do more advanced stuff. Or at least I have to assume that, because admittedly I've never used it. But yeah, the extra stuff you'd have to learn and resolve, it's trivial. Also, I might be doing a video, sort of, not on that, but you might see how little there actually would be to it. Anyway, so okay, this all covers just the source code. It doesn't really discuss the APV itself, but is APV an open source codec? That does OpenAPV provides the open source implementation. APV is also royalty free, at least according to this. This is an AI result from Google, but okay. OpenAPV is a royalty-free open source video codec. There it goes. So that's official, and this is this is under the Linux Foundation projects. Holy crap, this is cool. Okay, so it's official. Let's see. Yeah, I can leave that. Who cares? So yeah, I'm kind of jazzed to see this. This is really cool. It's so obviously in the past I've talked about the Motion Cam app, which captures actual raw video. So it is still going to be technically better than what APV produces, but it requires more processing. It actually requires an actual conversion step to convert it out of the specific format that it captures it into then DNG files. This will be more like ProRes, where it is a codec to itself. It will be supported by, at the very least, DaVinci Resolve. Seeing as this is going to be royalty free, that makes it better than ProRes for potential portability. Now, Final Cut, I don't know if Final Cut will end up supporting it because Final Cut's made by Apple. Final Cut has an entrenched reason to support ProRes, where it will not have that same incentive to support APV. But if APV becomes popular enough, you never know. They might kind of be forced into it. DaVinci Resolve, being one of the companies involved in making this thing happen, is incredible, because that's kind of the company that I always looked for to make moves like this. So double cheers to them for that one. And I wouldn't be surprised if Adobe jumps on this eventually. Actually, you know what? I'm now curious. Does Premiere Pro support APV? Not supported file formats. APV is definitely not listed here. Okay, so Premiere doesn't support it yet. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Final Cut doesn't yet. So that's a non-issue. Let's see. Also, just in terms of performance, obviously, like in the case of Macs, they actually have a hardware decoder for ProRes. So ProRes can be handled in DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut, both incredibly efficiently. APV does not have hardware decoding in any computer to date, that at least not that I'm aware of. I'm curious because this does mention hardware in, let's see, was it in this page? No, it was in this article. So yes, devices running Android 16 and equipped with supported hardware can now record using the APV codec. Now, I don't know if that's going to mean that this requires specific hardware with an encoder. Maybe it will, in which case I don't know if like a Pixel 9 has that hardware. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Regardless, this is kind of neat. What I was starting to say a second ago about the performance of using ProRes on a Mac is great, but that's because it has a hardware decoder. That being said, I'm working with raw video on a Mac, and it on an M1 Max, and it runs phenomenal. It runs perfect. It is smooth, and that's using raw video, which is harder to deal with than what APV is going to be. So I'm not worried about performance. It's going to be fine. I don't know how it'll be on other hardware though. That's a whole different mess. Let's see. So, let's see. The 5070 Ti is barely an improvement over the, does it work with Apple Silicon or AV1 encoders? It will gain no specific benefits from either of those. I can say that with reasonable confidence. Austin, have a good night. Take it easy. Hope you, you're going to bed, at least I'm going to assume, on the early side, which I'll just say, hope you feel better. I'm assuming that's why. Let's see. But yeah, anyway. So APV on Apple Silicon, that's the reason that I brought up how the other things perform. ProRes performs great because it has a decoder. It would perform great anyway, even without the decoder, but the decoder makes it a trivial thing. The fact that I can do raw video for context, every single frame of raw video is like 40 megs. It's huge. Every frame. And that's in raw format. So there's actually a full post-processing step or intermediate processing step that happens with raw frames. And that is a lot of stuff. And there's no hardware decoder that's doing that. So the fact that I can do that on M1 Max and it's smooth on DaVinci Resolve, yeah, I'm not worried at all about APV. There is no way that this is going to be more demanding than raw. At least not from what I'm reading. I suppose I could be wrong, but I would expect it's going to be less demanding. So, you know, it might be a different thing if you've got like 6 different video clips all in a single video frame, like for whatever reason. That would change the story a bit, but in general, I think this is going to be totally okay. And even if it's not, technically you can always make proxies, but you know, who wants to do that? So yeah, this is to me kind of really exciting news. This is Google, Blackmagic, and evidently Samsung, I guess, basically taking on Apple in one of the places where Apple has dominated, because ProRes is such a common, popular codec. But it's a codec that a lot of people have wanted to get away from because Apple owns it. Apple's kind of a jerk about licensing. Well, they're not opposed to licensing it. There's different versions of ProRes, some of which Apple's very open about licensing, and they don't ask much money. There are other versions where Apple charges an absolute mint to do anything with it, and as I recall, they're not willing to even license it to a lot of companies. So different versions of ProRes are treated differently. Whereas this, if I'm to understanding it correctly, I don't think there's any limitation on who's allowed to use it. I don't think there's any limitation on the cost of it. This is something I want to see. You know, now that I think about it, OBS, APV, codec. I'm suddenly curious because I doubt it's gonna be it. I doubt it's supported, but it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting if that is something that they could do. Also, APV handbrake. Be interesting if you could use handbrake to convert to APV. Okay, handbrake doesn't support it yet. I'm gonna have to look into this because the one thing I would worry about, I don't think that this is really much of an issue, but the one thing I would worry about is what the conversion story is like. Because if you started recording things in APV, if the only thing you can do with it is then load it up in DaVinci Resolve, and then like you'd have to load it up there, and if you wanted to turn it into like H.264, just the whole clip. If you want to turn it into H.264, you have to load it up in DaVinci Resolve, then go through the export step there. That's not the worst thing in the world. That's fine. But it's less convenient than doing the same thing with like handbrake. I mean, that's a minor complaint, all things being equal, but you know, you're talking about installing a large piece of software versus some, you know, handbrake's much tiny like that. If you already have, if you're recording an APV though, to be fair, you probably are okay with installing DaVinci Resolve. Or probably already even have it installed. So, yeah. I think this is cool. And it's Google doing a thing to take on Apple in a place that you have to be a large company to make this sort of thing happen. What would be even cooler is now they need to go work with other companies to get APV supported. And by that I mean Canon, Sony, Nikon, Fuji. Let's see. I don't know. The list goes on and on. Basically, all the major video companies. Ooh, Insta360. Love to see that. GoPro, DJI. Actually, DJI, I bet would love this. Because they had a bit of a fight over the ProRes stuff in the past. I don't think that got a lot of attention, but DJI APV codec. Let's see. Really doubt that. Wait a second. What? Okay, that article doesn't have it. It looked like it would for a second. It's not in comments either. Okay, that's just a weird thing that Google detected but missed on. I'm very curious about this now. So I almost want to I almost want to install Android 16 on something just so I can test this. I want to see... I really want to know if the Pixel 9 supports this, actually. Pixel 9 APV codec. We have... 5 days ago, somebody asked, APV codec for Pixel 8, 9 Pro devices. Where's the support for the APV codec, and will it be on the devices of a Pixel? And nobody answered. Let's see. Okay, so, but this is from 4 months ago. That's not really saying anything. But the, whoa, wait. There's, nope, okay. None of that's really confirming or denying anything. It's just there. Complete silence about the most important thing in Pixel cameras. Why? Does anyone know how better it is as already A16 beta 3.1? Wow, that's barely English, but okay. Okay, that doesn't tell me anything, but okay, this person's wrong. Oh, well, yeah, shocker. But I read the comment before seeing who. Okay, I might have to throw APV on just to see. Where's... No, that's not going to be it. Yeah, okay. I'm not seeing anything that really confirms that it's supported on the latest phones, but I might try this myself and see how it works out. That would be really cool to me. So, and I might go look in a couple of Discord servers that also deal with some video stuff, because it'd be really neat to see if anyone else can confirm or deny that they've tried it, because obviously that's that's cool and useful information. This will also play into very heavily some plans that I have coming up, because yeah, I want to dig into this. I want to do some stuff around this, but if it turns out that this is a thing, it might heavily shape some of my plans for some videos that I was just about to make. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, that's something I'll look into. But in the meantime, that actually wraps up everything I had prepared. Did anyone have any other subjects that they thought were worth bringing up? You know, it's funny. I thought this was going to be a short show, and here I am talking about video codecs, so you know how that goes. But turned out to be a pretty average length show. But let's see. So, Carson, getting a good laugh at my ramble habits. But yeah, anyway, let's see. So, in the meantime, yeah, the rest of this week, I intend to spend basically neck deep in coding, but I also need to get a lot of stuff organized so that I can start shooting some video in this office. Because I have one review unit I've shown before that I need to actually get some video shot of. I have another thing coming in the mail. It presumably was shipped supposedly today, but also supposedly the shipping label was made a few days ago. And I'm looking forward to getting that because it's going to also play into a bit reviewing the first thing. So we'll see how that goes. Trying to think. I'm also going to try very hard, I swear, to get the Last of Us rewatch done so I can get into the new episodes as quick as possible, because I aimed to have that done so long ago, and kind of just it kept being a thing that I couldn't find the time for, but I really want to actually get caught up on that. Because I'm curious how it goes. I'm also really admittedly worried that it's going to sit on a cliffhanger, except I even know it's going to. Like, there's no way it's not going to be a cliffhanger. Because we just kind of know. Like, they're not finishing the game. We know that it's going to continue, so. Yeah, there's going to have to be more. Which, I feel like also as a side note, they need to hurry up and get the next game going. Otherwise, what are they going to do with the show? Just saying. And that's another reason I also said that they should do 3 seasons. Draw it out longer. But hey, whatever. That's not the most important stuff. So, let's see. Well, no other subjects have been brought up, at least not that I am seeing. So, I think I'm going to call it a wrap for this one. Let's see. I will be back this weekend, of course, with some game streams. Overwatch, Marvel Rivals, that's pretty much the plan. And of course, next week, back with the IO edition of the RambleCast. IO 2025. We're gonna do it. It's happening. It's I think gonna be a whole lot of me and Corbin kind of bagging on Google for talking about AI way too much. But remember, there is going to be Android XR. Android XR is 100% going to be a thing. We know this already. Google did not hide it. They were teasing it. They were pretty open about it. So we're at least going to have that to talk about. And I'm looking forward to that. You signed up for the A16 beta? I think I probably will. Because if nothing else, I want to see what the story is going to be with this video format. And I want to compare it with the other format that I've already been checking out and using. Let's see. So, what else? Trying to think if there was anything else. I don't think so. Yeah, so let's see. So streaming next week, RambleCast, IO edition. Going to obviously be talking about Android XR. I'm willing to bet we're going to talk about Android XR more than Google does. Just call it a theory. We're going to talk about it way more than Google does. And we're probably going to talk about AI a lot less than Google does. Just call it a theory. Let's see. Carson, it doesn't work if you're already on the May patch, right? At least that's what you remember Nils saying. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but what I actually, I guess just out of curiosity, I'm gonna, oh, you know, I think I did just update, but let's see if my Pixel 9 is on that patch. Where is it at? No, not there. This screen. I'm on the April patch, so I should probably go do that. Let's see. So yeah. And it's weird that it wouldn't work if you're on a newer patch. It kind of doesn't make a lot of sense, because for the most part, those are full replacement OTAs. But who knows? Maybe it does something to the bootloader that was a problem. But yeah, anyway, so I want to look into that because I'm really curious about that. The only thing that would make me worry is I kind of don't like throwing myself at a beta, but I guess since they're going to have a stable out pretty soon, that might not be an issue. We'll see. All right. Anyway, with that, of course, let's say big thanks to those who are here in chat. You guys help keep the show a little more engaging, a little more interesting. I certainly appreciate having you here. And of course, double thanks to supporters of the channel. Carson, Austin, David, Diablo, and Alyssa. You're all awesome. And for anyone who would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. Of course, any little bit helps. And let's see. Again, I will be back this weekend with some game streams. Next week with another RambleCast. And, oh, and Alyssa, you asked, getting off early on Saturday and Sunday. I do not have any plans to end early. I'm not sure why you're asking that. Let's see. And judging by the temperatures that it'll be this weekend, I don't need to start early either. Oh, you're asking about playing The Last of Us Part 2. So I'm probably not going... I'd be tempted to do a playthrough, but I'm probably not going to have time for it. Also, I don't know that I could reliably do it because... while the PlayStation is fine, the controller for the PS4 was still never really sorted out. So I've been able to get it working, but it's a little unreliable power-wise. So I have some theories. Need a PS5 or a PC. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much true. I mean, objectively, I need a PC someday because that's just gonna be a thing. But yeah, unfortunately, money is not an option. I'm, for the most part, I'm gonna be stretching what I have to try to get the YouTube channel off to a more functional... Oops. What did I just... Good. I'm going to be stretching what I have to get the YouTube channel actually going, and trying to get an app built that will be hopefully fairly profitable. We'll see how that goes. And once I have that far enough along, I'm actually going to be tapping some people to be beta testers. But we'll see when that's ready. Hopefully not, well, it's not going to be for a few weeks no matter what. But hopefully some things start moving along a little quicker, because right now, early start, there's a lot to work on. So I'm kind of getting bearings again on writing Swift, but also just picking and choosing which things I need to work on first, because getting it to kind of a good starting state is always the hardest part of any programming job. But once I have the interface stuff kind of at least starting to build out, it'll be in a good place to it'll be in a really good place to start building out the functionality. And fortunately, a good chunk of the project is going to be a lot of just little parts that I can sort of throw together pretty quick. But when that's ready, again, you'll see. Let's see. Does 8-Bit though have PlayStation 4 controllers? I thought they didn't. And also, are they selling to the US right now? I'm not even kidding about that. Are they actually selling to the US? Because last I heard, that was a thing that they kind of weren't into. Oh, I guess they probably don't care right now because the tariffs were delayed. So in theory, they don't. Seriously, do they actually make controllers that are even compatible with PlayStation 4? I thought as far as I'm aware, I don't think they make any that work with PlayStation 4. Or maybe they require an adapter. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'll peek into that later. But yeah, that's something for another time. So yeah, I will think about doing a Last of Us Part 2 playthrough, because I would actually like to play through that again. But yeah, I don't think it'd be that easy to line it up with the show this time. Since last time I kind of played through The Last of Us more or less alongside the show as it aired. This time around, it's kind of late to do that. But maybe I will. I mean, you know, just for the sake of playing it back through anyway. So yeah, with that, I am going to take off. I've somehow, I did my entire outro and then proceeded to ramble into various other bits in the process. So I'm just going to basically say thanks again, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.